Nellie Bly, originally Elizabeth Jane Cochran, known as Pinky. She dropped that name when she became a journalist at the Pittsburgh Dispatch, where she wrote about women in factories and got herself a foreign correspondent position in Mexico until the president of Mexico threatened to have her arrested for her stories. She went to New York, fought her way into the office of Joseph Pulitzer himself. She said, Blackwell's Island, right near Manhattan, there's an insane asylum for women. I want to get committed, and I want to go inside, and I want to expose what's going on for these women inside there. What kind of rehabilitation, if any, are they getting? So the next day she checks into a boarding house for women, and at dinner she starts putting on her act. She goes to Bellevue, she has all the doctors saying she is positively insane, and she goes into the madhouse for 10 days. The first thing that she notices is the food. It's not even edible, it's horrible food. The second thing, the women are given nothing to do. The ones who are really crazy are just tied with ropes, and the rest of them just sit in a room. They're given ice baths, cold baths in their ears and their mouths. They're stripped down. They're berated by the nurses. They're beaten by the nurses. This is an excerpt from 10 Days in a Madhouse. My teeth chattered and my limbs were goose-fleshed and blue with cold. Suddenly I got, one after the other, 3 buckets of water over my head. Ice cold water too, into my eyes, my ears, my nose, and my mouth. What accepting torture would produce insanity quicker than this treatment? Nellie is absolutely heartbroken over what she sees, and furthermore is convinced that many of the women who are in there are no less sane than she is. She gets out, she files her story. There was a grand jury investigation. So she single-handedly changed what was going on for women, and that became a model for other insane asylums in the country. Not all of them, but it did become a model because it was news. So Nellie goes from a penniless, unemployed woman to a national superstar. And Pulitzer came up with this idea that someone should beat the fictional character in Jules Verne's Around the World in 80 Days. Someone should beat that record. That's fictional. So they send her off to beat the 80-day record. She takes one dress, that's the iconic outfit that we always see her in, and some underwear. And she travels at a breakneck speed around the world and gets back in 72 days and some change. So she published many books about her 2 biggest events, the insane asylum and Around the World. What she really was the beginning of investigative journalism, what later became known by 1900 as muckrakers. Pulitzer is now the highest prize one could get as a journalist. Nellie Bly was probably his greatest stroke of genius, I think, in terms of he thought he was going to sell more papers, but what he did was he allowed a woman who knew who she was not Pinky anymore, and she wasn't Elizabeth Jane Cochran, she was Nellie Bly, and she showed the world that women can do anything. In times when I feel very insecure about an action that I'm about to take, I do ask myself, what would Nellie do? I use that same tenacity, and I still use it to this day, of just knowing what it is that you want and not being afraid or ashamed to go after it. She's my hero.